I never imagined that when I started the Love Yourself project last October that so many people would pay attention to what I had to say. Though it was created primarily as an outlet for me to explore my grief, it's clear that my message has resonated with a lot of people and grown into something far beyond my wildest expectations. If you're still here listening to me ramble on, thank you. Another major reason I started this project was to get people to talk about death, loss, grief, and mental health. And despite the ever-growing number of nonprofit organizations, awareness events, support groups, and general resources for people who have lost a loved one, there's still a stigma around just talking about it. So for this video, I'm going to do just that. Talk about it. Openly, candidly. Not my artistic take on grief juxtaposed with shots of me wandering through the woods, and not how my grief relates to the theme of a video game. This is my suicide story. On the evening of June 27th, 2023, my then 13-year-old daughter made the terrible decision to end her life. My beautiful, funny, creative, and kind baby died alone and sad in her bedroom closet by her own hand. My son and I found her body the next day. We initially responded by trying to free her for resuscitation, but quickly realized that she had been gone for hours. It was too late. I was too late. I've kept much of the circumstances surrounding Allison's death private in the other works in this project. This subject is a difficult one for me to discuss or even write about. It's also a line that I must tread carefully in order to respect the privacy of the rest of my family. I'm not the only person who was affected by my daughter's death. And truthfully, the circumstances of her passing aren't that important anyway. That said, it would be hypocritical of me to preach that we need to talk about it without actually talking about it myself. So here I am, a broken-hearted parent, choosing to peel back a layer and make myself a bit more vulnerable in the hopes that it will do the world some good. I wish Allie was the last child to die by suicide. I wish her mother and I were the last parents to ever endure pain of this magnitude. But sadly, that is not the case. We lose 50,000 people to suicide every year in the United States. That's a death every 11 minutes. That's right, in the time it takes you to watch this video, we will have lost another person to suicide. Our younger populations, ages 12 to 24, are at even greater risk. Suicide is now the third leading cause of death for people in this age group. So why is this happening? That's hard to say. While I don't believe there is any one causation that can be pinpointed, I'm not a mental health expert by any stretch. This is merely my perspective as a bereaved parent and should not be considered professional advice. I've read a lot of comments expressing curiosity surrounding the circumstances of my daughter's death. Some respectful, some not so much. And since again, I'm not a professional, all I can really do is share my experience. So here you go. Allison is the second of 5 children in total. Though her mother and I are no longer married, we've continued to maintain a strong relationship as friends and co-parents, including her current husband. The 8 of us have always been close and communicative. One big happy blended family. I've been so very blessed in that regard. I've served in the military for over 13 years, including 3 tours overseas, which forced me to be gone a lot. And even though Allison grew up in a warm, safe home where she was loved and supported, I carry a tremendous amount of guilt for how much of her beautiful, short life I missed. We always think we have more time. Rarely do things work out that way. Like many kids, Allie began to struggle with self-identity and self-worth as she entered her teen years. This age can be so hard because you're handed adult problems without the adult coping mechanisms to deal with them. She struggled with body image, gender identity, and a sense of burdensomeness on those around her, especially her family. It's so heartbreaking for me to reflect on this. She was literally the most wonderful person, a soul of the absolute highest caliber. If you haven't watched my love letter video already, go take 8 minutes and see what the hype is all about. Because she was often reserved and perhaps even ashamed of her struggles, Allie was not open with us about what she was going through. A few weeks before her death, some of it came to light through vigorous prying on our end. We did everything we thought we were supposed to do as parents. We sat down and had a serious conversation about it. We assured her that she was loved, that she was important, and that there was help for her. We took her to her doctor for a thorough evaluation, and she was prescribed medication. And I paid especially close attention to her, having open talks with her every day about mental health and even working from home to more closely supervise her. Despite our best efforts, she still chose to end her life. Another factor in my daughter's death that I can't forego discussing is bullying. As someone who grew up in the 90s, I more or less accepted bullying as a natural order of things. I was bullied myself, especially during my teen years. I just figured it was something that people went through and then kind of grew out of as they got older. But what I would urge parents of my generation to understand is that technology and social media have elevated bullying to a plateau far beyond anything any of us experienced as kids. The ability to anonymously spew hate in every direction without any real consequence seems to bring out the worst in people. I've learned a lot about what Allie experienced since her passing. She was bullied both in person and via social media, having her clothes destroyed, spitball spit in her hair, being objectified on social media, and even being told that I chose work over her. While I understand that many factors aside from bullying contributed to her death, and I don't blame any one person, it still must be talked about. Reflecting on how unkind the world was to my baby creates a deep sadness in my heart. As a parent, I not only failed to protect her from the world, I failed to protect her from herself. If you're the type of person that thinks that saying something from behind the veil of the internet comes without consequence and is not taken seriously by those on the receiving end of your remarks, know that not everybody is wired to be as insensitive to it as you are. Mark my words, bullying kills people. It costs nothing to be kind. Among the confluence of risk factors for suicide, there are 3 that are considered to be high risk factors, and so I want to take a moment to address those. This is something I wish I had known much sooner. First, as I mentioned about Allison, is a sense of burdensomeness. Whether it's related to depression or not, people who view themselves as a burden to those around them have a higher risk of dying by suicide. Whether it's a result of conditioning or not, these people grow to believe that they're a burden on their family, friends, peers, mentors, and loved ones, and that all of these people would be better off without them. This can perpetuate further into a deep lack of self-worth. I know my daughter experienced this to a harsh degree, and her late drawings and writings reflect this. Related to this sense of burdensomeness is a lack of belonging. People who feel like they don't fit in anywhere become more isolated and more prone to suicidality. Now, I'm not saying that introverted people become suicidal, just that there's a great importance in a sense of belonging. Our social circles, home and family life, our friends, the people we go to work and school with, all play a critical role in our self-identity and therefore our self-worth and mental health. People without these connections have less tethering them to this life. This is a difficult one for me to process because I truly feel like my daughter was openly loved and accepted by her family. Again, I know the rest of the world was not as kind to her. This theme is the cornerstone of the Love Yourself project. I want to create a safe space, a loving community where people can check in on each other and talk openly about their mental health struggles. If you're watching this right now, you are part of this family. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, a dangerous risk factor of suicidality is exploring self-harm. Humans are born with an innate sense of self-protection. We are hardwired to avoid pain, danger, and death. People who explore self-harm become desensitized to this in time, and the barrier is degraded for people who become used to pain or do not physically fear death. Because of the circumstances surrounding Allison's death, I do not believe that her suicide was truly intentional. I think that she was a kid, sad and hurting, who was exploring self-harm and accidentally took it too far. Whether it was an accident or not, it doesn't change the fact that she's gone from this world. The takeaway from my message is this: if you are struggling with mental health issues, please do not explore self-harm as an outlet. It is a dangerous and slippery slope that can have irreparable consequences. As I've said countless times, if I accomplish nothing else with this project, I at the very least want to create a safe space where people from all walks of life can gather, talk about their struggles, and hopefully support each other and find help. If you've made it this far in the video, you've likely connected with my message on some level and perhaps are even struggling yourself. Whatever burden you're carrying, grief, loss, mental health struggles, know that you are loved, that you are valued, that the world is a better place with you here in it, and that there is help available to you. And despite how you may feel at times, there are people here that truly do care about you, including me. If you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, this is your sign to stay. Give it one more day. Be patient with those around you who do not understand, and even more patient with yourself as you stumble. Be kind to yourself and those around you. The world needs as much of that as it can get. And as always, remember to love yourself.